Sego. Welcome to a live edition of CKON's Did with Talo. We're going to sit down with Abram Benedict, Grand Chief of the Mohawk Council, three chiefs of the St. Regis Mohawk Tribal Council, Beverly Cook, Eric Thompson, and Michael Connors, and we'll hear from Aronhiaies Herne from the Mohawk Nation Council of Chiefs. Good morning, everybody.
Morning.
Morning.
Morning, Josh.
Morning.
All right, we're all in on the conference call here. We got the technology. We're doing it. Hope everybody's feeling great today.
Very well, thank you.
Good. Yeah.
All right, so today we're going to talk about funerals, and we're going to kick the hour off. We're going to talk right to we're going to open up with Abram Benedict. Good morning.
Good morning. Thanks for joining us this morning. The Mohawk Council of Akwesasne and the St. Regis Mohawk Tribe and the Mohawk Nation Council of Chiefs continue to jointly share important information related to the COVID-19. Today we are here. We need to speak to the community about funeral protocols during the pandemic we are experiencing. I did touch on this topic last week during the CKO Under the Watalo update that I provided. And today we're joined by the tribal chiefs and the Mohawk Nation have joined me so that the entire community is aware of this important information. Let me begin by saying that this COVID-19 pandemic has impacted us all. Understandably, this is a difficult time for our community. Some families, it is even more difficult because they've had to deal with the loss of a loved one during this time. As a community member, an extended family, it's always been our nature to come together and show our love and support for a grieving family when a death occurs. The strength and compassion we provide helps families through their most difficult times. What makes it so hard during these unprecedented times is that we cannot physically console a grieving family by giving them hugs, holding their hands, or offering a sympathetic shoulder for them to cry on. This goes against everything that we have taught and how we were raised. Instead, we must fight our natural inclination to be there and continue to physically distance ourselves from others. And for now, we have to extend our sympathies from our own homes to the grieving families. With that, I wanted to ask everyone who's listening in to join us in observing a moment of silence as we honor those community members who have recently passed, as well as we offer our deepest condolences to their families, who we are all unable to physically console at this time.
Nyawa, thank you. We want to let listeners know that local funeral homes have been in close contact with the leadership in Akwesasne. Through the years, the funeral home professionals have developed an understanding and respect for our community's customs, and for many of us, have also developed personal and long-standing relationships. The funeral homes are now doing their very best to continue accommodating our community members' wishes during this pandemic. However, there are strict guidelines that must be adhered to in order to keep everyone safe. The restrictions are set by health officials from St. Lawrence and Franklin County Public Health, the New York State Department of Health, the U.S. Center for Disease Control and Prevention, and Canadian health officials in order to prevent the spread of COVID-19. Please know that they understand how important our funeral rites and traditions are during our time of mourning and are working within those guidelines in order to honor our wishes in a safe manner.
Funeral viewings and visitations may occur privately for immediate family members only at the funeral home, with no more than 10 people in the building at one time, which includes staff, with social distancing measures in place. Immediate family includes the individual's spouse, parents, children, grandchildren, and siblings. The funeral home will accommodate families that are larger than 10, but you must allow periods of time to cycle immediate family members through for a private viewing period. These will be with limited time slots. Funeral services are encouraged to be done in an outside environment such as a cemetery, but may be performed at the funeral home under the previously stated guidelines. Burial and/or cremation is encouraged to be done at this time, again under the same guidelines. Provisions may be made if burial grounds are not suitable for burial at this time, such as if the ground is still too wet. However, burial should be done as soon as possible after such provision. Memorial services, celebrations of life, memorial meals may all be coordinated after the mass gathering restrictions are to be lifted. Due to the fact that they are often serving multiple families at the same time, timing of the services may be impacted to allow for the facility's cleaning between viewings.
Should a person be in self-quarantine or show any symptoms, we would ask that they do not enter the building for the safety of visitors and staff. The funeral homes realize that there are different funeral customs honored throughout our community, so they'll do their very best to honor these customs. However, not all may be able to be honored in a timely manner, including visitations or viewings in the personal home, church, or longhouse setting. These guidelines are in place for all services for individuals who are attending services for a person that is not infected with COVID-19 illness. Should the death occur due to the COVID-19 illness, a completely different set of procedures may be put into place. We're asking that you please respect these protocols, as we do not want to risk not having funeral services available to the Akwesasne community. At the same time, no funeral home wants to be ultimately responsible for a communal outbreak that could have been prevented if everyone complied with these limitations. As a community, we don't want to see this happen either. Having said this, please be mindful that depending on how the pandemic continues to evolve, the limitations that are in place now could change as well. We will continue to update the community as information related to funeral protocols becomes available. Nyawa.
Yeah, and that was messages from Grand Chief Abram Benedict, St. Regis Mohawk Tribal Chiefs Beverly Cook, Michael Connors, and Eric Thompson. And now we're going to turn to Aronhiaies. Is he here with us?
Good morning. So I'm speaking on behalf of the Mohawk Nation Council of Chiefs, and at this time it's made it very difficult for us as well, trying to even come to conclusions or make decisions on what our funeral process is also going to be. But one thing that has been agreed upon, and we've done our best to have conferences and meetings, and to still continue with our processes and making decisions and looking at our process of grief and funerals and how this will impact our community due to the pandemic that's taking place and we're all affected by. So for us, one of the first things that we consider, and it's probably when it comes to funeral is just as important as all of the compassion and love that we show for each other and our families, is that same respect that we show for the deceased and for the spirits who are passing on. And so when we look at our process and the process of taking care of the body and the spirit, one of the things that I was taught and that we all understand is that when it comes to wakes and funerals and the longhouse portion and all of the funeral services, that those words and those processes are set up to help benefit and to help respect the life and the spirit of that person who has passed. And we try not to take away anything from the families, but at this time of the pandemic, we're working hard to first always make sure that we honor the spirit and that we take care of that body in the most respectful way possible. And now, in the future, what we're considering is coming to the times of the 10-day and the 1-year feasts, is that those are times that we can consider into the future once everything settles down or once everything comes to a time where we can start to look to console each other. We're going to consider options of providing those full services, the funeral rites and the funeral speeches and all of those things that would normally take place during that time of the 1 year or more, like maybe a community feast. So all those things are being considered for us, but it's still important the community understand that even as far as ceremonial conductors and chiefs and clan mothers, we still also have to be considerate of the funeral homes and their regulations and their guidelines, so that they're not held responsible for an outbreak or anything like that. And even as far as our ceremonies is concerned, we're taking measures to keep our elders safe and to keep everyone protected, and even our young children too. So all of those things are being considered, and we're doing our best to continue to consult with each other and to come up with the best possible scenarios and plans, protocols to still honor those families and to still honor those loved ones who have passed on. And so for us, we follow those same guidelines. So all of the things that were already previously stated that's going to be conducted through the funeral homes is the same process that we're going to follow. And we do have guidelines for our protocols too, that talks about the process that we're gonna go through. And this has kind of been, it's still evolving, it's still changing, because we're like I said, we're just trying to accommodate and adjust as best as well as we can, because this is really unprecedented for us as well in our ceremonies. So at this point, we won't be providing any wakes or wake songs won't be conducted. The viewing will be done at the funeral homes. If there is an option to also do a one-time viewing also right at the Longhouse, which the funeral homes have been more than accommodating and more than respectful of our ways, and wanting to help us to anything that we ask and to have those discussions of how best we can still serve our community and our people and the Longhouse traditions. So all of the speeches and the words would be done at one location, and as of right now, just due to the control factor, to be able to have a controlled environment, that's being conducted right at the funeral home. But like I said, the discussion is still open to also be able to do that at the Longhouse. But whether it was at the Longhouse or the funeral home, it would still be the same protocols followed of only a minimum of 10 in the room, and still social distancing and all those things that the funeral home has put out would still be followed, and it would still be those guidelines would still be put forth. And then there's also the burial would be the same kind of rites, but no matter which portion or which area that we're trying to fulfill in the teachings, and trying to honor that spirit and the body, and even the burial would be the same process of there would only be allowed 10 people at the burial site, immediate family, and also with the social distancing in effect as well. There was an option also to have words addressed at the burial site, but we felt that it would be better to do it inside, just because of it weather, and it's easier to have a controlled environment that way. So all of those guidelines would still be followed, even because we don't want to lose our services either of the funeral homes providing for our community. And so all of those speeches that would be conducted would either be done at the funeral home, or we could also have that discussion of also doing it at the Longhouse as well. And then our burial process would still be the same way also. So at this time, that's what we're working on, and we're still, adapting and changing as we go, and we're still meeting, virtually or over the phone to try and provide the best services to the community and the best, in terms of tradition, the best processes that we can to still help the ones who are deceased and the ones who are still here and who are still suffering and still in that grief. And in no way are we trying to, take that process away from anybody. This is the reality that we're dealing with, and trying to make things better for everyone, and also keep things safe as much as possible. I'm still in talks with everyone on the council and all of the conductors, as many as I can get in touch with, to try and provide those things, the best possible way. And so, looking into the future, that's where we're at as far as the Mohawk Nation Council is concerned. But we still, encourage the community, to follow those guidelines of social distancing and also, wearing the masks and, keeping themselves safe and checking on your elders and, making sure that, even our young children are safe as well. And so that's about all I have as far as the Mohawk Nation Council is concerned. At this time, it's all, we try to stay all in lines with what the community and what the the funeral homes and the regulations that they need to follow. So that's all I have for right now.
Okay.
And like I said, hopefully, if any new developments come or any new protocols, are set forth, we'll definitely work to keep the community informed of all those things, all those decisions. Yeah.
Nyawa to everybody. We come together in these times of crisis, and these, everybody makes hay about this and the other thing. But when it comes down to it, our community is strong and resilient, and everybody's working real hard. So I thank everybody who are joining us for, spending your time and putting yourselves even at risk for these things by keeping working. And that's a live edition of CKON's Did to Watalo. We were joined by St. Regis Mohawk Tribal Chiefs Beverly Cook, Eric Thompson, and Michael Connors, as well as Abram Benedict from the Mohawk Council of Akwesasne, and Aronhiaies Herne from the Mohawk Nation Council of Chiefs. They talked about the current COVID-19 restrictions when it comes to funeral rites. I would just like to remember that the views and opinions expressed by our callers are not necessarily the views and opinions of the CKON 97.3 or the Akwesasne Communication Society.